Okay, hi. In this segment, I am going to talk about the belief in God and atheism and how the two can coexist. So, I myself, I identify, with the atheist movement, and yet I believe in God. So that's an apparent contradiction because atheism, by default, means you do not believe in God. So I want to talk about how the two can coexist peacefully within each other. So first of all, the atheism part, I believe in the scientific process. I think it's an imperfect process, and we don't even know why there's gravity, but yet it's a fact and evidence-based belief system, and so far it's the best thing we have. It's a mile better than the other system, which believed that a supernatural being created the universe. So in a way, I don't believe in magic or supernatural or anything that's beyond the scope of science. Modern science might not be able to explain everything in the universe, but eventually science will be able to explain more and more things. And and this process is a scientific process, and I have enough confidence in the scientific process to be able to explain things which we currently don't know, which is, again, what is gravity, how was the first DNA created, and those issues. Now, to the believe in God portion, I'm going to tell a story before I get into it. So there was a very pious man, and he's been a very good, he's been a very good believer his whole life. And one day there's a flood, and the water, it's going up, and he was on the top of his roof, but he has very deep faith in God, and he said, I've been a good man my whole life. I believe God will not let me go like this, so I'm not worried. And then a few hours later, there's a guy came in a boat and say, come on, get on the boat. We have a flood. If you want to live, get on the boat. And he said, nope, I'm not going to go. I've been a very good man my whole life, and I believe in God, and he's not going to kill me. So you can go. And then a few hours later, there's a helicopter came, and they throw down a ladder and say, get on the helicopter. The water is going up. And he said, nope, I'm not going to go. This is my house, and I've been a good man, and I'm not going to go anywhere. God is not going to kill me. And sure enough, a few hours later, water went up, and he drowned to death. And he went up to the pearly gate, and he was furious, and he said to God, I've been a good believer. I believed in you my whole life. How can you kill me with a flood? And God says, it's kind of interesting. I thought I sent a boat and a helicopter. How come you didn't get on them? So, why do I say that story? Well, as again, I don't believe in magic or supernatural. I believe, we manifest the will of God, what we do. So rather believe in intervening entity in which come in to, the physical world and change things. We are the one that make things happen. So to talk a little bit more about, what exactly, believing God is and how you can have that faith while being an atheist at the same time, I'm going to divide it into both a utility layer and a philosophical layer. So number one, to me, the belief in God is an irrational optimism. Let me give you an example. Global warming. Within our lifetime, global warming, from all evidence, is going to wreak havoc in the world. We're going to have a lot of food problem. Billions of people are going to be running short on water. It's going to be very bad for the economy, and the sea level will go up. However, this belief in God, to me, it's an optimism that says that even with contrarian evidence, I still believe that at the end, it's going to be okay. A very wise man once said to me that a lot of things, when it happen, it always seem worse than it actually is. And it is the faith in God that perseveres through this initial shock that keeps us going. In a way, our brain can be very misleading and act harmful to our best interests at times. And this belief in God is the triumph of this irrational optimism over our imperfect psychology. A second layer of this belief in God is that the belief that we're connected to the universe more than what evidence has shown. While science show that we're separate entities, and we perceive the world through our five senses, and our five senses tell us that we are separate from this chair right here. It's separate from our room. It's separate from the nature, and it's way millions of miles away from the galaxies and the stars. But I believe that we are much more connected to the nature than evidence show, and that science will one day reveal that connection. Science will one day prove, God. And in this next segment, I'm going to talk more about the scientific research and the evidence of this connection. But those research are not commonly accepted scientific doctrine yet, so they're not real science at this moment. But I do believe deep inside that we are more connected to our surroundings than evidence shown, and it contributes to me believing in this God, which again is not supported by evidence. And if you look at it, around the major religions of the world, this theme has come up again and again. In Islam, the word jihad literally means struggle, and the word Islam means to surrender. I know the media give the word jihad a bad name. You think of suicide bombers when you think of jihad, but literally the struggle of jihad is supposed to be within. You struggle within to reach the surrender, which is the meaning of Islam. You surrender to God. And Judaism, Jews wear a kippah on their head. Well, Jews wear a yarmulke on their head to show that God is above them. Hinduism, pride and foolishness shield our eyes, in which we do not see this greater connection. So if you think about it, what does it mean to surrender? To surrender means the recognition that there is a greater whole, and that we are a tiny part of this greater whole, and thus we surrender to this greater whole. And it's another way of saying that we are connected to the greater universe. I guess people back hundreds, thousands of years ago do not have the scientific means to show this greater connectedness. But I'm hoping that in the future, modern day physics will be able to show more evidence of our connectedness to the universe. And when you do achieve a level of surrender, when you do achieve this understanding of our smallness in the greater world, you achieve peace. Peace is the ultimate goal of religion. Whether it's Buddhism or Islam or Christianity, happiness is what people usually go after. But what people don't understand is that happiness is already a transient state of mind. You already stay happy for a brief period of time. It's the It's the excitement of your sensory nerves that make you happy, rather opposed to sadness, which is the depression of your nerve. But peace is permanent. Peace means finding your place within whether it's your work, your surrounding, your home, with your friends, or finding your place within the greater universe. It's the same concept, if you think about it, as the surrendering concept in Islam, just different way of saying it. So in a way, a belief in God gave me perspective. It shows me that to see things in a longer perspective, and that things are not as bad as it is, and to plan more than what's right in front of me. Human being, we have the tendency of seeing only what's in front of us, and I guess the belief in God humbles me. So that's how I can be an atheist and have faith in God at the same time. Again, my hope is eventually science will prove this greater connection. I mean, if you think about it, what does proving something mean? 100 years from now, or maybe a few years from now, when scientists discover the Higgs boson, they can give you 50 sheets of scientific formula and say, hey, look, we have just proven how the universe was created. We have just proven, how the Great Bang came about. 100 years from now, they could say, we can just prove this greater connection. We have just proved God exists. But that's not what most people want. What most people want to hear is that you tell them something that makes sense with the background knowledge they have. If you think about it, how can you prove anything anyway? How can I prove that I'm sitting on this chair? How can I prove that I'm Chinese? How can I prove that the sky is blue, right? I mean, how can you disprove anything? From a scale of 0 to 10, if 0 means that I absolutely have belief in God, and 10 means I absolutely sure there is no such thing of God. If you ask me where you are in terms of the Old Testament God, where you are in terms of a God that created the universe in 7,000 years, I would say I'm probably like a 9. I'm not a 10 because I cannot say for absolute certainty that, the Old Testament God, the one that, killed a bunch of Egyptians and created Adam and Eve, I cannot say that it did not exist with absolute certainty because I don't know. So I'm a 9 on the Old Testament God, but I'm also a 9 on, unicorns and fairies. I cannot prove that there's no unicorn. It might be living in Ireland somewhere. I don't know. But you cannot say with absolute certainty there is something, just as you cannot say with absolute certainty that there isn't something. So I guess the reason I record these recordings is to give you something to think about, and hopefully you can find something that can be useful, in your own everyday life. And if you have questions, feel free to shoot me an email, and I'll answer them. Okay, thank you.